with how my fog is working. The whole idea behind that was just to establish some just overall atmospheric perspective here. Another thing that I did was I went into my material and I tiled the substance textures, and so this is kind of the overall shot setup we have so far. Let's go back over to my post-processing, and let's see, we'll close up our color grading, and let's see what else we could add to this. Let's do a depth of field now. So here I'm going to enable my focal distance and my aperture and my focal length. So we can start to play around with this focal distance here. And then we have our aperture as well as our focal length. So we can play around with something like this perhaps. Okay, so just changing the composition here just a little bit. Zoom in on this. And it's a matter of just constantly tweaking everything. So here I might just go back and change that focal distance just a little bit more. Now, something else that I could add to my scene, if I come over to my game objects, light, we could start to work with some reflection probes here. So let me grab a probe, and let's see, put this over here into this section. And I'm just going to duplicate this, move this guy over like this. I'm just going to add a few probes here across the scene. I'll do this one. Also with the probe selected, I could come over to my custom settings and I could change that intensity multiplier, so you can see where I'm starting to just increase that overall reflection out here in the distance. You can see it right here in this view as well. So actually it's probably a little too intense. Let me just drop it down a little bit. Do something like that. And then, Control V, just kind of move this guy over here as well. Okay, so here's my final result. I just went in, played around with the camera position just a little bit more, went back to my post-processing and just made some changes here to my color grading, things like my lift, gamma, gain, so on. So that's going to conclude this video on how to work with the HDRP shaders, how to set up the entire scene from scratch, and how to use the Substance in Unity plugin with the HDRP shaders.
Hey, Darren here with Renaissance Coders. If you want to see more videos like this one, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. The fancy YouTube algorithms will rank us higher and enable us to keep making great content for you. Thanks for your time. Now let's get into the video. Alright, so in this video I'm going to show you my complete development process. You'll get to see what I do to create or search for art, how I run into errors, and make design decisions quickly. I'll try to cut out anything that isn't useful to your learning, so just sit back, enjoy, and let's see how long it takes to build Flappy Bird. If you have an Android device, you can find and play this project right now in the Play Store. Just search Renaissance Coders, Tappy Bird. Okay, so first I'm going to start off by opening a couple resources that I know I'm going to need ahead of time. The first one being the Unity API. If I get stuck on a method call or something I don't remember, I can just do a quick reference to the API. Another thing is flaticon.com. This is what I use for my free art purposes, basically. I can just search something like bird, which is something I know I'm going to search for this project. And if I select selection up here, then I know that all of these are royalty-free assets that I can use. I just have to provide attribution to them in the game. So we'll come back to that, but I'll leave these open. Let's go ahead and create our new project. So I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to call it Tappy Bird. So it's not going to be called Flappy Bird, but Tappy Bird is okay for me. And then I'll set my initial project assets, or however Unity loads it to 2D. And then I'll just select Create Project. And that's going to take a second to load up. And I'm going to provide a link to any of the resources I use in this tutorial. So if I'm using a piece of software that you're unfamiliar with, I'll provide a link to that with documentation and resources. So I'm going to start off by creating a few folders in my directory. Okay, let's go ahead and start off by saving this scene. So I'll say save scene, and I'll just drop this in as game. We're only going to have one scene in this project. That's going to be game. Let me try to save that before I get any progress done. I'm also going to add in some fonts. So if you're using Windows, you can do this like this. You just type fonts. And the two that I'm going to use are FFF Forward and Sego UI. Sego UI is kind of a big one, but I really like the way those look for general purposes. So that's going to take a second to import. So while that's importing, we can actually get into some art. I use GIMP for art. I don't use Photoshop. I know Photoshop isn't great, but I never took the time to actually learn it. And from what I can tell, I can do a lot of the same things in GIMP that people show me in Photoshop. So I'll provide a link to this, of course. There's a few assets that we need to